Welcome to the Total Boss Podcast, and I'm your host, Christiano Green, a podcast where we talk about finding fulfillment through self-development, being a leader of your own life, and getting the most out of it as well. Tenacity, originality, talent, authenticity, and being legendary. It's all about living your best life. Hello, all you total bosses out there, and welcome to the Total Boss Podcast. I am your host, Christiano Green, and I'm a life and business coach working with gay men to help them build up their confidence so they can find freedom, fulfillment, and fortune in their life. So this week's episode, I really wanted to talk about a story of courage that has happened in my life in the hopes that this can inspire some of you to be, tapping into your courage, because we've all been courageous at some points in our life, especially, plenty of us gay men struggling with coming out and bullying and all those things. To be able to overcome a lot of that stuff is super, super courageous. So I really wanted to share a bit of my story so that we could maybe inspire you to really tap into your own courage muscles. So first of all, wanted to check in here. Has anyone else ever felt judged before in their life? Or has anyone else walked into a room where they may have felt like they were judged, right? Well, that's kind of how I felt every single day of my life growing up. When I was in school, I got bullied severely every single day, and I had zero friends. I would often find that, recess and lunch would be the most difficult times for me. And I would often try to hide away on my own so that people couldn't see me because, if people saw me, they would pick on me, they would bully me, they would push me around, they'd gang up on me. And, school wasn't really fun for me. And so, things like going to the bathrooms, were scary for me because, I've been, pushed around in the bathrooms and whatnot. So, I had a big complex around going to even, public bathrooms for a very long time. And so, some statistics here on gay men is that, gay men are, 2 times more likely to be bullied than straight men, and they're 3 times more likely to have depression, anxiety, and have suicidal thoughts or even attempt suicide, right? So what that means is that, 40% of gay men will get bullied at some point in their life. 50% will suffer from some form of depression, 60% will suffer from anxiety, and 1 in 10 will actually attempt or think about suicide in their life as well. And what leads from this is that 1 in 3 gay men will also have a substance abuse problem, which could be alcohol, drugs, or even, prescription medication. And so, as you can see, some of those numbers are super alarming, and I've fallen into every single one of those categories. And, looking back, some people would say, oh, fuck, that's terrible, right? But for me, I look back and say, that's kind of made me the man I am today in some strange way. So, after I've been through what I've been through with the bullying, I thought that when school ended, that things would change, I thought, okay, great, I'm no longer in the schoolyard, I'm not going to get bullied anymore. But that wasn't the case. When I went into the workplace, I got bullied in multiple different workplaces all the way up until I was 30. And, even in one place where I was working as a manager at Coles, I actually got shoved into a corner by the actual store manager with his hand on my throat, calling me a little faggot, and that I needed to do what he said. Otherwise, he'd make it worse for me here. And so that kind of really threw me off in life and made me feel even more depressed and caused a lot of anxiety, made me want to retreat and not be around people because I felt, like I said, that, when was this going to end? And at that point, I still was in the closet and, speaking up was difficult because speaking up, and saying what people had said about you in those moments makes you feel a bit vulnerable. So, even though I did share it with my area manager, nothing got done and I kind of ended up just leaving. And often, a lot of the time, I would just run away from the problem because, again, I wasn't ready to face it, which is why it kept happening to me. And, again, a lot of that caused depression, anxiety. I was stuck in my room a lot. I would hide away in the closet, listening to music, trying to just, wish my life was different. I would often put myself into a fantasy world in my head, thinking that life could get better. I would dream that I was somebody else and that people loved and adored. I wish I was a tennis player. I wish I was a singer or an actor and all these things where people adored me. And, I would hide away in my room for hours just thinking about that type of stuff. Whereas, when in reality, my life wasn't like that. I really hated my life. I hated being around people, especially people like that who bullied me, because it really put me into a negative headspace. And at some points I really thought about what my life would be like if I did commit suicide. What would it be like, would people miss me? Is my life worth living? I had those types of thoughts. I never actually attempted it, thank God, but I definitely went down the path of really considering what my life would be like if I wasn't here, because I wasn't ready to face it. And it took a lot for me to actually do that. So when I did actually come out, when I went to Sydney to the gay club for the first time, it really was a bit of a kind of a culture shock to see all these gay people living life, having fun, and truly feeling like they're celebrating themselves. So really what I got from that was that, I wanted to give this a go and actually try to come out so I could see if I could, move past a lot of the pain, depression, anxiety, all of that. But, my representation of what a gay person's life was, the party scene, which is kind of what I got into for most of my 20s. I thought that, the gay life was fun, drinking, drugs, all of those things. And I kind of spent my 20s really getting myself into that scene, which, has you going up and down when it comes to your depression, your anxiety, for people who've taken, drugs or had, lots of alcohol in their life, the days after that can be really kind of depressing and cause a lot of anxiety, especially when you black out a lot, especially when you have, overdosed as well and, gone to hospital for it. It's not fun, right? Because you start to think about, what are you doing with your life? And so for me, those years when I was in that early on, I thought that, oh, look at me, I'm super confident now. I've got all these friends. From someone who had zero friends and was bullied a lot, I thought that's what confidence was. And in all reality, it was just masked by the alcohol and the drugs for me to be able to have some Dutch courage. But really at the core of it, I was still feeling depressed underneath there and still feeling, the repercussions of being bullied and being, growing up and having to come out and all those things of identity, right? So it took a long time for me to really move past that. And, I just remember one time when after I had a big long bender weekend where I'd been partying for like 3 or 4 days, with very little sleep, I just remember being at home on my own, kind of crying to myself, really just going, what like, when is this going to change? When am I going to start to truly feel better? And I just remember putting on Netflix just to try to distract myself, because that's kind of what I would often do, try and distract myself. And really there was this new documentary that just came out called I Am Not Your Guru by Tony Robbins. And I'd heard of the name Tony Robbins before, but I hadn't really kind of noticed what it was about. And, it was this kind of documentary about his, some of his seminars, which were kind of life-changing. And you would see him really kind of doing all these interventions on people and how the life changed around, and how like some people were suicidal, some people were addicted to drugs, some people kind of struggled with all of these different things that happened in their past. And he was able to help these people have breakthroughs and actually change around their life. And I just remember getting so inspired by it that I really needed to kind of go. And at this point, I'd been, partying my way through my 20s. I'd been living week to week, but also further than that, I'd gotten myself into about $30,000 worth of debt. And, I was just like, well, the ticket to an event that was happening, in a couple of weeks was about $1,200. And I just was like, how am I going to get there to go? And so I had to, get resourceful and borrow money from my parents to go, because I really felt like this was something that was going to help me make a shift. Because at that point, I still felt like I was a little boy. I wasn't taking life seriously. And I think in turn, the world wasn't taking me seriously as well. So, I got there, got the money, which was great, borrowed it, and, really truly invested in myself for the very first time. And going through the 4 days of Unleash the Power Within really was a life-changing event for me, because I was able to clear out some stuff that had happened in my past and really feel like I was stepping up into being a man. And, from that point on, things started to shift for the better. Within 1 month of actually getting there, I'd stepped up a lot, and I'd gotten a promotion at work to be a manager of the team that I was currently working in. And it was a small team at the time. I think there was about 10, 15 people in the team. And, I became a leader. And, for me, being a leader was something that I've always felt like I'd wanted to do. I'd wanted to be, get into some sort of helping other gay men from the time that I struggled to come out. Initially, I was doing counseling as well. While I was, working as a manager, I was studying to be a counselor as well. So I kind of got myself into that gear, but really realizing that, it was maybe not necessarily the path I wanted to do. After going into that event, I really realized that coaching was probably what I wanted to do. And so I utilized my time as a manager, which I was there for about almost 5 years, as a way to practice all of the skills that I learned and just to try to get into it. And, I really wanted to step into creating my own business for a long time. But again, I still had a lot of fears. I still had stuff that I hadn't truly dealt with in the past that was holding me back. And it was about me having true confidence in myself and having the courage to actually take a step away, especially when I was in a position that kept growing. Over those 4.5, 5 years that I was working there, my team went from like 10 to 300. And, my responsibilities grew. I felt like, the team that I built really was needing me. And I just kept making excuses as to why I couldn't make a change. And again, I was feeling weak and that I couldn't make the decision. I was feeling shame and guilt about leaving. And it just had a lot of, frustration around the fact that I couldn't actually take the step because I just didn't truly believe in myself. And so I did that for a long time. Again, wasn't happy there for a very long time, wasn't fulfilled in what I was doing. Even though I loved being a leader, I just didn't really feel like that was the position that I wanted to have for my life. It kind of felt like I fell into it and I accepted it because I wanted to step up, but it really was always meant to be temporary and it kind of lasted longer than I had wanted. But, during COVID of 2020, life got really tough because, at that point, the company I was working for was e-commerce, and it kind of tripled overnight with the fact that everything went online and there was no stores opening here in Sydney or most of Australia, right, where the company I was working for was. And things just went nuts. And over the next few months, the drinking problem I had really, heightened to a huge new level. And, because I wasn't able to leave the house much, the whole weekend where I wasn't working, I was just drinking because I was kind of trying to mask the stress and the pain that I was currently in. And I had a breaking point there and I had to really decide, is it time for me to actually step up and make a change? And, a year prior, I'd signed up to a coaching program that I had, an online course, and then I got offered a boot camp. And really at that time, I didn't do any work with it because I kept thinking, I'm not ready for this. This isn't what I was really ready to do. And so I stopped myself from doing it. But, I had 12 months to complete it and go to the boot camp. Otherwise, I would have kind of lost my money. And so luckily, that pushed me to go to the boot camp, which really led to me taking the step forward to open my business. And from there, I kind of fell into, another course, which was NLP with this master coach, Tony Kay, who's one of my coaches now, who just really kind of took the whole thing for me to a whole new level. And I kind of went through that whole thing and really kind of processed a lot of stuff. A lot of fears went away from me, a lot of anger, a lot of sadness and hurt and guilt went away because of, dealing with different processes that I had through the NLP techniques. And after I kind of left that whole kind of program, then my whole life kind of shifted around. I immediately put into a plan how I was going to start, really focus growing my business so that I could get to a point where I could leave my corporate job and actually step into that full time. And I did that, and it took me about 8-9 months to do that, which I'm so super happy I've been able to do. I changed around my health. I gave up drinking for well over a year and, changed my body around, changed my mindset around, changed how I saw myself around, put in work constantly to do all the different personal development courses. I kept working on improving my coaching skills. I focused on my spirituality and creating really good routines for myself so that I could have a really good connection to who I am, because I really know that when you build up your own courage, before confidence comes courage, right? So it took me courage to take those steps. But when I was able to take those steps and trusted myself, a lot of confidence came from it, which is kind of why now I teach, a lot of my clients how to build up courage, how to build up confidence, how to truly figure out what it is they want to do in their life, in all the different areas of life, so they can be fulfilled. And that fulfillment will help them to create some freedom in their life, and eventually, will create the fortune that they truly deserve so that they can kind of live a life of purpose, a life of passion, and fulfill really what it is that they really want to do. So for me, by doing all that, I'm fulfilling my own dreams. I'm feeling like I've been courageous multiple times in my life to make shifts, even at the hardest points, even at my rock bottoms. And it's a story of really saying to yourself, what is it that you must do to come out as something more than just gay, right? Because I've come out as gay, I've come out as a man, I've come out as a coach, and I've come out as me, right? And the most important part of that is coming out as me. So what is it that you must do to come out as you? What is it that you must do to start believing in yourself? What is it that you must do to start investing in yourself so that you can start to get the results in the life that you kind of truly deserve? And when you're changing your life, it is scary, right? It's hard to do it alone. I didn't do it alone. I got coaches. I invested in programs. I went to different events that really helped me to open my eyes. And, surrounding yourself with the right type of people is important, especially when you want to grow and develop, because, like I said, there's so many courageous steps along the way that, really getting inspired and talking to people who you can trust and value their opinion is important, because, it's definitely a journey out there to really have the life that you truly deserve, because along the way, you're going to have so many different fears coming up. You're going to step into many uncomfortable situations, but it's really about owning yourself, owning your decisions, owning what you deserve, and really stepping forth into that. Because again, once you can start to take that courageous step, your confidence rises. Your confidence from within rises because you start to trust yourself. And then from there, like I said, it's about leading into finding that fulfillment and freedom that you truly deserve. All right, guys, that was really what I wanted to share today. I trust it's been valuable for you. I'd love to hear any feedback or comments about what you've heard today. If you've got a story of courage that you want to share with me, or you're struggling with making a courageous step in your life, feel free to send me a comment below or reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook, and I'd be happy to have a conversation with you there. All right, guys, I'll leave it there. So, I'll be back next week. Always remember that you've got this and I've got you. Peace out, guys.